There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins. Hey, we're going to take a little break here and talk about interstate batteries. Now, if you're like me, enjoying the great outdoors, you need gear that is as reliable as it gets. That's why I power my adventures with interstate batteries. I use interstate batteries in my boats. I use interstate batteries in my camper. Great for your truck, too. From Alaska to Montana, they're outrageously dependable. Battery is essential. With over 150,000 dealer locations, finding one is easy. For all your vehicles, land or sea, choose Interstate. Head to interstatebatteries.com and find your power today.
Welcome to This Country Life. I'm your host, Brent Reeves. From coon hunting to trot lining and just general country living, I want you to stay a while as I share my stories and country skills that'll help you beat the system. This Country Life is proudly presented as part of Meat Eaters Podcast Network, bringing you the best outdoor podcast the airways have to offer. All right, friends, pull you up a chair or drop that tailgate. I think I got a thing or two to teach you. How to cook a coon. You heard me right. We're cooking a coon this week. You know, some folks eat them because they like them. Some folks eat them to support a cause, one we'll talk about a little later. But back in the day, at least down here where I live, some folks ate them out of necessity. They were making do with what they had, which is a subject I covered a few episodes ago. That inspired This Country Life listener, Jason Campbell, to send in the following story about a time in his life when he was making do. It might be a stretch to keep it on theme for an episode about cooking coons, but there's some coon hunting in it, along with a good lesson. And good lessons are their own theme with everything. In Jason Campbell's words and my voice, here's the story called Hanging Back. It all started about the time I thought it was all ending for me. Like most high school freshmen, I thought I had the whole world figured out. I just couldn't legally drive far enough to explore much of it. Everything changed in my small town world the day my lifelong bad knee diagnosis got a name. Nail patella syndrome. It was barely an inconvenience as a small child, but at 15, it became a daily issue, and I hit the growth spurt that seems to catch us all about that age, and things kind of got out of whack. Then my faith was strong, but it felt like the beginning of the end. Thankfully, it wasn't. However, there was a slight shift in my mountain taming abilities. After major reconstructive surgery and new parts in both knees, I found myself still hungry for adventure. Even more so, after the struggle of learning to walk again. I was so thankful and relieved as I slowly regained my mobility, and I give the Lord and the doctors and my great family all the credit. Fast forward 18 years, a few more surgeries, and I'm proud to still be working hard as a machinist, hunting, fishing, and even raising our wonderful 3-year-old son with my awesome wife, Rebecca. Now I've come to understand the value in hanging back. When it comes to making tracks, I ain't that fast. I can usually be found somewhere in the background, moseying along, doing the best I can, and just thankful to be doing so. I don't run like a deer, and even dragging one is difficult for me. Okay, I'm going to get to the good part. The coon hunting. This part relates to fond memories, empty wallets, a lot of luck, and as Brent loves to say, making do with what you have. Now, back during high school, I had 2 strikes of luck around the same time. Passed my learner's permit driver's test, and then shortly thereafter, I met a new friend. A kind older gentleman at the local gas station. It had been the best breakfast for miles around, and old-timers hung out there. You know, the kind of place that feels like home to everybody that stops in every day. We struck up a conversation, and he invited me on my first coon hunt that night. I'll withhold his name for privacy's sake, but we'll call him Mr. Dale. At the time, I couldn't tell a good coon dog from any other, but man, I'm telling you, I got a grade A backwoods education that night. And in a long list of things learned that stand out to me now, here's 3 in no particular order. Number 1, listen to the old timers with your good ear. Number 2, Mr. Dale had some health troubles and he wasn't fast, just like me. Number 3, bloodhounds are beautiful and powerful creatures. Now, I hunted with Mr. Dale and his crew every other night that season. Sometimes we treed one, sometimes we didn't. But I always had fun just easing along, talking life with Mr. Dale. Now, a lot of times my knees and his health meant we missed the action at the tree when the faster folks got there first. Sometimes we just plumb gave out of breath and couldn't make it to the tree. It never bothered me one bit to miss it. I was just happy to be invited along. Season ended that year in its usual fashion of going out about the time the crappie started biting in the spring. So I was back to sleeping at night, then school and fishing in the evenings. Time marched on and a few months went by like short days. Then, one day, I was out fishing at a local farm pond and I see Mr. Dale walking across the pasture. And I wonder what he's doing here. Where's his fishing pole? How did he know I was here? Then came the shocker as Mr. Dale told me he had given up coon hunting, mostly for medical reasons, and I could see his despair in telling me about selling each of his beloved hounds one by one. I thought surely that the last one, the only bloodhound of the bunch and secretly my personal favorite, was being saved as his pet just for him. And I have yet to find the words to describe my thoughts as he went on to his next point and his reason for tracking me down at that pond. He described to me the multiple offers, pleas, and even downright arguments he had dismissed up to that point regarding the future of his beloved big red dog. He said, "Son, my whole family and half of my friends are after old Betsy. But I've given it a lot of thought. If you'll have her, stop by the house tomorrow. I want you to take her and my dog Box too. She's a good dog, and I always appreciated you hanging back with me in the woods, even if we missed a tree or two." It was such an act of kindness on Mr. Dale's part. It's been almost 20 years since it happened, and I still don't have the words for it. Though Betsy has long since been ringing heaven's hollers, the memories are with me deeper than these scars on my knees. So many nights just found me and old Betsy. I can still hear her, especially when the wind blows cold through the briar-choked creek bottom, just singing to my soul, just for me, while I'm hanging back. Thanks, Mr. Dale. Well, thank you, Jason Campbell, for sharing that wonderful story of compassion, determination, faith, and generosity. And according to Jason Campbell, that's just how it happened. How'd I cook a coon? A short while ago, my old partner, Clay, middle name I Cheated Turkey Calling Contest, Newcomb, told you all about an event that he, his wife Misty, and me and my wife Alexis went to in Gillette, Arkansas, the Gillette Coon Supper. It was the 80th annual gathering of friends, family, and like-minded individuals who may not agree on politics, but can all agree that education, community, and heritage is important. It was my first attendance of an Arkansas tradition that I not only was aware of, but that I supported most years by buying tickets, but never attended. It wasn't because I didn't like the crowds or I was disgusted with the thought of eating a coon. I've been eating those critters my whole life. It was all about timing. The Coon Supper takes place in January, during the most holy of outdoor pursuits for a lot of Arkansans and those that fancy themselves as honorary residents. Duck season. Duck season had my brother Tim and I working hard entertaining clients at our duck camp on the Arkansas River near the small community of Raydale. Now, we were hunting and whining and dining folks and just couldn't fit the event into our schedule, even though it took place less than 30 minutes from our camp. We never knew how many people we would have, and let's face it, not everyone, even hunters, get real excited about gnawing on the ham of a Procyon loader, the trash panda, the masked bandito, a river bottom coon. So, we would usually buy tickets from a friend of ours who sold them just to support the scholarship program that the event funded. We guided professionally for 26 years. We missed 26 coon suppers. We retired from guiding a dozen years ago. That's 38 coon suppers that I didn't attend. Then came 2024, and my friend Austin Booth, the director of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, invited Clay and I and our wives. The look on my wife Alexis's face when I said, Austin's invited us and Clay and Misty to the Coon Supper next week in Gillette. It was not astonishment or horror. It was supportive and agreeable with only one caveat. I'm not eating any, but I'll be glad to go with you, she said. Now, that gal's my best friend, and I can always count on her support. However, eating fur-bearing creatures is about where she draws the line. I've eaten them forever and usually either like them baked with sweet potatoes or barbecued. I like them cooked that way, but neither way stood out really from any other wild game I've ever ate. To be honest, the most significant or intriguing factor of eating a cooked coon was the fact that you were eating a cooked coon. It became a staple of country folks during hard times, but the outside of the coon was historically more valuable than the meat found inside, until the fall of the fur market. Now, when the fur market crashed in the late 80s, the way coons were valued changed with it. People no longer trapped or hunted and killed them for their fur, and there were never very many hunting them just for their meat alone. It's too easy to fill your freezer full of deer meat, ducks, and fish. And those were always more appealing to folks with less of a conviction for eating wild game than a coon. The older fanciers of the meat died out slowly with only regional appeal from specific communities keeping the flame burning for a stew pot full of cooked coon, except Gillette. Folks down at Gillette were keeping on. And while the amount of meat cooked through the years may have gone down and the alternative domestic choice has gone up during that event, the quality of this southern delicacy has remained. And now I'm going to tell you how they cook it.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth.
We've all seen plenty of gadgets and fads come and go, but there's one product that stood the test of time: Seafoam motor treatment. Now, lots of hunters and anglers know that Seafoam helps engines run better and last longer. It's really simple. When you pour it in your gas tank, Seafoam cleans harmful fuel deposits that cause engine problems. I'm talking stuff like hard starts, rough engine performance, or lost fuel economy. Seafoam is an easy way to prevent or overcome these problems. Just pour a can in your gas tank and let it clean your fuel system. You probably know someone who's used a can of Seafoam to get their truck or boat going. You do know someone. Me. I've been using it for years. Really. People everywhere rely on Seafoam to keep their trucks, boats, and small engines running the way they should the entire season. Help your engine run better and last longer. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit SeafoamWorks.com to learn more. Cole Counts is in the agri business and is a young man compared to a lot of those associated with the Coon Supper. But he's also a Gillette alumnus who is helping maintain the tradition and supporting the legacy by volunteering every year. Cole sees the importance of the mission by bringing the community together in support of education. Now, Cole himself was a recipient of the scholarship and stewards the benevolence he received by working in agriculture and giving back to his community, along with a whole bunch of other folks. He's quick to downplay his role in the preparation and pushes the attention to the men and women who've been there way longer than him. I get it. They should be recognized and have been as recently as Clay's Bear Grease episode number 214. If you hadn't listened to that one, get your hind end over there now and listen. He dives deep into the history and the politics and highlights some of the OGs that have been instrumental in fanning the flames of that event for the last 80 years. Now, you folks have my unwavering gratitude and appreciation for staying the course and keeping the mission of the event alive and well. Education and family. But someone has to be reaching for the torch when the time is right to pass it on. That's why people like Cole and the others who come in now are so important. Alexis and I sat beside a couple who had been coming for 61 years. He told me he was a graduate of Gillette and had never missed one. He lives in Little Rock now, and he and his wife travel every year to support the community and the student scholarships. The good Lord willing, I won't miss any more. Now let's cook this thing. A coon has 4 sets of glands that need to be removed before cooking. Failing to do so will give the meat a very undesirable flavor. It's simple, and with a little practice, you can have that rascal ready for the boiling pot in less than a minute after you've snatched his hide off. The glands resemble a bean in shape and size and vary in color with subtle shades of gray. They're found in between muscles on each side of the neck, the joints between the thigh and the lower hind legs, both sides of the rear part of the back strap, and the joint between the body and front legs between the muscles. Once that's done, the meat is cut and quartered into serving pieces: front legs, hind legs, and a backbone. The pieces are placed in a salt water bath to brine overnight. The brine can simply be water and salt, and that works great. You can also use pre-made flavor-infused brines that have sugar and other spices added to create some unique flavor of your own. Turkey brines have been used by friends of mine, and they say it's a great way to enjoy it. Now, I haven't tried it yet, but I will. The function of the brine is to infuse flavor and to tenderize and moisturize the meat. Brine a turkey, brine a coon. It's all the same thing. Now, in a big pot of water, I use a 30 quart, the same pot I brine him in. I just rinse the pot out and the coon off before following Cole's directions. I added 4 carrots and 4 onions and 4 bell peppers, 6 or 8 stalks of celery, and I cut up a couple of lemons. Then I went out on my own and I added a couple of bay leaves and a cap full of liquid crawfish boil to mix, and I let it slow boil for about 2 hours. And once that's done, the coon is cooked, but there's one more step we need to amp up the taste even more. It's time to fire up the smoker. Any residual fat that's left should be removed before placing it in the smoker. I removed the coon from the pot, took off any fat that was left, and put the 5 pieces of bone-in backstrap, both shoulder and both hams, into an aluminum pan. Now I have a Camp Chef pellet grill and set the temp at 225 and high smoke, and I let it sit in for about 2 hours. An hour into the cook, I turned the meat once. Now once that was done, I took the pan off the smoker and immediately covered it with aluminum foil, and I let it rest for 30 minutes on the stove. If you're going to add any barbecue sauce or anything else like that, now's the time to do it. I didn't, but that's up to you. Now allow me to do you another solid while I'm at it. Everybody knows that biscuits go with gravy. Cornbread goes with beans. But for the uninitiated, sweet taters go with coon. And I whipped up a batch of cream sweet potatoes while the coon was in the last stage of smoking, and they were ready to go when it was time to uncover the pan. Hot dogs taste better at a ball game. All my kids, from the oldest to my youngest, Amy, Hunter, and Bailey, will testify to that. There's a legitimate link between place and taste. Fish tastes better on the river, so it only stands to reason that coon would taste better in the environment of where it's celebrated most, the Gillette Coon Supper. However, there was no loss of flavor or enjoyment of eating it when I prepared my plate and sat at our family table with Alexis and Bailey. Alexis and Bailey both had some, if a bite can be counted as some. Bailey, she didn't care for it. Now, this is the girl that would rather eat bear chili than ice cream, remember? That's probably a slight exaggeration on my part, I'll admit, but she loves wild game. Coon, it wasn't for her. Alexis, the poster child for city girls who voluntarily jumped into this country life of mine with an open mind and a sparkly pair of Uggs many, many years ago, tried a bite. And she said, I couldn't tell you that wasn't beef I just ate. It has the same consistency as roast. It's just the thought of it being a coon that has me not wanting another bite. I love you, Brent, but I ain't eating any more of that. I like the way she always says she loves me right before she adds she ain't about something I am. Everybody needs a cheerleader, a companion, a godly spouse who supports them in whatever they do that's good, even though they may not wish to participate. Alexis is mine. And I'm sure there are just as many ways to cook coon as there is to cook anything else. This is just one way. The way I chose to do it was this one with some help from my buddy Cole. I thought it was fantastic and will absolutely do it again this fall. Now, someone like my friend Jason Ellsworth, who is a show enough wild game chef, a man who could make a feast out of butterflies and hay string, there's no telling what that rascal could conjure up with a skint coon. Check him out over at ellsworth.cooks on Instagram if you don't believe me. Now, I've been talking about frying catfish in the past and now how I like to cook a coon. And if you like these episodes, let us know and maybe we'll do some more in the future. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about in this country life, and we'll take suggestions from everyone. Even the guy that left a 1-star review saying, I don't listen to the ex-cop turned country boy who is talking about only God knows what every week. Well, mister, I was a country boy before I was a police officer. Maybe you were listening to it backwards. I don't know. Maybe you should try the Meat Eater podcast, Cutting the Distance, Foundations, Wired to Hunt, Bear Grease, Cows Week in Review, God's Country, or The Element. They're all Meat Eater podcasts, and surely you'll find something in one of them that won't make you so angry, J. Cody J. I'm finishing this up in Manitoba, Canada. I've been up here getting ready to chase black bears with old friends and new friends, and we'll visit about that later. Something else we'll be talking about very soon is some This Country Life apparel. Y'all hang on just a little longer. I think you're gonna like it. Time to get ready to hit the woods. Until next week, this is Brent Reeves signing off. Y'all be careful.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins. Hey, we're going to take a little break here and talk about interstate batteries. Now, if you're like me, enjoying the great outdoors, you need gear that is as reliable as it gets. That's why I power my adventures with interstate batteries. I use interstate batteries in my boats. I use interstate batteries in my camper. Great for your truck, too. From Alaska to Montana, they're outrageously dependable. Battery is essential. With over 150,000 dealer locations, finding one is easy. For all your vehicles, land or sea, choose Interstate. Head to interstatebatteries.com and find your power today.